For years, Dana Perino appeared calm, confident, and unshakable on screen. But behind the scenes, she was carrying a private pain few ever knew existed. Now at 53, that hidden heartbreak has come to light, and it's far more devastating than anyone imagined. This isn't just another headline. It's a deeply personal tragedy that reshaped her life forever. What she reveals will leave you stunned and emotional. She wasn't born into fame, power, or noise. Dana Perino's story began in the wide, silent spaces of Wyoming, not the kind of place people usually picture when they imagine a future White House press secretary. The wind there didn't care about dreams. It just blew, steady and cold, across quiet towns and endless skies. Dana came into the world in one of those towns where life was simple but not easy. Her family wasn't rich. There were no connections, no shortcuts. Just a strong sense of discipline and a quiet understanding that if you wanted something, you'd have to work for it. Even as a little girl, Dana felt that silence. She didn't talk much about her feelings, but she noticed everything. Her parents didn't shower her with praise. Instead, they taught her to be steady. Her dad, Leo, would read the newspaper with her and explain what was happening in the world. It was their ritual. Her mom kept the house calm and organized, showing Dana that strength didn't always come from shouting. It came from showing up, day after day, without complaint. In their home, silence wasn't emptiness. It was focus. It was a kind of training. Summers on her grandfather's ranch in Wyoming were tough, but unforgettable. She was just a kid, but no one treated her like one. At sunrise, she was already hauling water buckets, clearing out dusty stalls, or fixing fences under the hot sun. No one handed her anything. And maybe that's where her fire started to grow, not as a spark of ambition, but as a quiet refusal to give up. She didn't want to be praised. She wanted to be useful. And she was. Back in Denver, she worked before school and after. She didn't complain because that's just what you did. A radio station, a local PBS affiliate, jobs most teenagers wouldn't even consider, she took with both hands. There wasn't time for doubt. She learned how to be calm under pressure, how to speak clearly, and how to hold herself together when things got hard. She wasn't loud, but she was watching, learning, collecting the pieces of the woman she would become. There was nothing flashy about Dana's early life. No spotlight, no stage, just quiet strength, built day by day. She didn't know it then, but those early years, the long days, the small losses, the hard-earned wins, were lighting a fire inside her, and that fire would carry her all the way to the White House. When Dana Perino arrived in Washington, D.C., she wasn't chasing fame or power. She came with a suitcase, a degree, and the quiet determination of someone who knew how to survive without attention. The city was loud and fast, full of sharp elbows and bigger personalities. Dana was neither. She was observant, careful, willing to learn. She started at the very bottom, answering phones, carrying documents through long marble hallways, and watching how power really worked from the sidelines. No one knew her name, and for a long time, that felt normal. She worked for people who barely noticed her at first. Meetings blurred together, days stretched into nights, and the pressure never fully went away. But Dana did something most people didn't. She listened. She learned how to read a room before speaking. She learned how to choose words carefully. And in a city where volume often passed for strength, her calm became her edge. People began to trust her not because she was loud, but because she was steady. Her first big break came as press secretary for Congressman Dan Schaefer. She was young, surrounded by people who had been in politics longer than she had been alive. Reporters tested her. Colleagues sometimes talked past her, but she held her ground. She prepared carefully, answered clearly, and never panicked. Even when she didn't know an answer, she knew how to say it without losing control. That kind of discipline doesn't come from confidence alone. It comes from years of being uncomfortable and surviving anyway. Then, just as she had found her footing, everything fell apart. In 1998, Schaefer announced his retirement. Overnight, Dana lost her job and her sense of direction. Washington, the city she had fought to enter, suddenly felt cold and unforgiving. She was 26, unemployed, and unsure if she would ever make it back. Many people left at that point. Dana didn't. She felt the fear, but she didn't let it chase her away. Around that same time, she married Peter McMahon and moved with him to England. The move was meant to be a fresh start, but instead it became a different kind of test. Dana's career vanished. There were no briefings, no newsrooms, no schedules that demanded her voice. She found herself walking foreign streets alone, wondering if the life she had worked so hard to build was slipping away. It was quiet in a way that hurt, but even there, she didn't break. She waited. Everything changed after September 11, 2001. Dana returned to the United States and found work at the Department of Justice. The country was shaken. Fear was everywhere. And once again, Dana stepped into chaos with calm. She spoke clearly when people were scared. She learned to carry heavy messages without letting her voice crack. It was in that pressure that her strength became visible. Not long after, she joined the White House. At first, it wasn't glamorous. It was policy work, endless meetings, and quiet responsibility. But those roles taught her something deeper: how words move markets, how silence can be dangerous, how a single sentence can change the mood of a nation. She absorbed everything. Then came the moment she never thought she was ready for. Standing behind the White House podium, the lights, the cameras, the eyes of the nation. As Deputy Press Secretary and later as Press Secretary, she faced reporters trained to tear answers apart. Some days felt endless. The country was divided, tempers were short, and every mistake felt unforgivable. What no one saw was the fear, the racing heart before stepping out, the private breath taken just before the doors opened. Dana wasn't fearless, she was disciplined. That's the difference. She trusted her preparation, stayed focused, and spoke with clarity even when her insides were shaking. Her mentor, Tony Snow, gave her strength during those moments. He believed in her before she believed in herself. When he became sick, Dana had to carry on without him. She answered questions during the day and grieved quietly later. Leadership, she learned, does not pause for pain. When she became White House Press Secretary, the pressure doubled. Long days turned into long nights. Sleep disappeared. The work never stopped. She carried the voice of the administration and with it, the weight of a nation's attention. But she never lost control. She became known as calm, measured, reliable. Someone the public could trust, even when they didn't agree. By the time her White House chapter ended, Dana had been changed by every test she faced. Resistance had shaped her, loss had steadied her, and pressure had turned quiet preparation into visible strength. She didn't rise by pushing harder than everyone else. She rose by standing when others would have broken. Love doesn't always look like the movies. It doesn't always come at the right time or follow the plan you thought you had. For Dana Perino, love showed up during one of the most uncertain chapters of her life and ended up reshaping everything. She was 25, sitting on a flight from Denver to Chicago, unsure of what was next. She had just lost her job in Washington after her boss, Congressman Dan Schaefer, announced his retirement. Everything she'd worked so hard to build suddenly felt like it was slipping away. She was questioning her future, unsure if she'd find a place in politics or media again. And then, a man sat down next to her. His name was Peter McMahon. British, older, kind smile, steady eyes. At first glance, he didn't seem like someone who'd change her life. He was 43, divorced, with grown children back in England, but something about him felt safe, solid, real. They started talking, and something clicked. It wasn't fireworks or instant romance. It was curiosity, respect, and the quiet comfort of being fully seen by someone. Their relationship started slowly, long-distance calls, letters, short visits across the ocean. But despite the years between them and the miles that kept them apart, they kept choosing each other. In 1998, just 11 months after they met, Dana and Peter got married. The wedding was simple, no big audience, no extravagant ceremony, just soft music, a few close friends, and two people who had decided, quietly and completely, that they were in this for the long haul. Moving to England with Peter meant leaving behind her career, her city, and her rhythm. The work she had been doing, writing press releases, talking to reporters, shaping messages, was suddenly gone. In its place were long, slow afternoons in a foreign city where she didn't yet belong. There were no big press rooms or deadlines, just time, and the uncomfortable questions that time often brings. Had she given up too much? Could she ever get back what she had in DC? She loved Peter deeply, but she missed her work. She missed having a voice in the conversation. And quietly, without drama, that began to wear on her. It wasn't regret. It was something softer, a quiet ache for purpose. Still, she stayed. She supported him. They built a life together in their own way. And in doing so, Dana discovered something she hadn't expected. That love, when it's real, doesn't require you to be perfect. It just asks that you show up day after day with honesty and care. One of the deepest and most personal chapters in Dana's life has been the one that never made headlines. The decision, or maybe more accurately, the reality, of not having children. She once imagined she would. She thought, like many people do, that there would be a time. When my career slows down, she used to say to herself. But it never did. The jobs got bigger, the responsibilities heavier, and the years moved faster than she expected. There was no dramatic moment where a doctor told her it was too late. No big turning point, just the slow passing of time and the quiet realization that the window had closed. She didn't fall apart, she didn't feel broken, but she did feel the weight of something missing. And she learned to carry that weight with grace. Instead of a traditional family, Dana and Peter built their own kind of home, one filled with love, stability, and shared rituals. Their dogs became a central part of that life. First came Henry, their introduction to the kind of joy a dog brings to a house. But it was Jasper, their second dog, who truly captured their hearts and the hearts of Dana's audience. Jasper became more than just a pet. He was family. He traveled with them. He appeared on air. He made people laugh. He brought light into their home. When Jasper passed away in 2021, Dana let the world see something she rarely shared. Her pain. She cried on air, and viewers cried with her because they understood. Jasper wasn't just a dog. He was the echo of a life not lived, the warmth that filled the spaces left by roads not taken. Losing him hurt in a way she struggled to put into words. It was more than grief. It was a reminder of time, of what love costs, and of how deeply we can attach our hearts to the quiet companions who walk beside us. Later came Percy, all energy, chaos, and affection. Percy didn't replace Jasper. No dog could. But he brought back the laughter, the playful mess, the reminder that even after loss, love has a way of returning. Not in the same form, but in the same spirit. As Dana moved into her 50s, her world began to shift again. Peter, now in his 70s, started to slow down. There were minor health scares, the kind that come with age. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to remind her how fragile everything is. She began noticing things she hadn't before, the way he moved a little slower, the way his eyes lingered a little longer on old memories. And in those quiet evenings, with just the two of them and a dog at their feet, she felt time in a new way, not as a clock ticking down, but as a gift being unwrapped, one soft moment at a time. She would sometimes lie awake, listening to Peter breathe beside her, feeling the weight of both love and fear. Not fear of losing him tomorrow, but fear of losing him someday. Because loving someone older is a different kind of love. It comes with a sharper awareness, a deeper gratitude, every breakfast shared, every walk, every laugh. It all feels more precious because you know, even if you don't say it out loud, that nothing lasts forever. And yet, it's in that awareness that their love grew even stronger. Not flashy, not dramatic, but honest, deep, and fiercely loyal. They moved to Bay Head, New Jersey, a small town by the ocean, a place to breathe, to rest, to stop running. After more than 40 moves, Peter said, "I want this to be the last place." And Dana agreed. Their home isn't grand, but it's full of light, memories, and quiet peace. It's where she wakes up to the sound of waves instead of breaking news alerts. It's where dinners are slow, conversations are soft, and love feels more like presence than performance. A home not defined by what's missing, but by everything they've built together, despite the things they never had. Dana never called her life lonely. She never called it perfect either. But what she and Peter created is something many people never find. A life built not on checking boxes, but on choosing each other every day. Even when things got hard, especially then. She once said, "Our house isn't full of children, but it's full of love." And that's the truth of it. Jasper's memory lives in framed photos and inside her heart. Percy still runs through the halls like he owns the place. And Peter, older now, quieter, gentler, still reaches for her hand across the table with the same certainty he had the day they met. Love for Dana wasn't just about romance. It was about showing up, staying when things got quiet, learning to celebrate life even when it didn't follow the script, and turning the life she had into something beautiful, even if it didn't look like what she once imagined. In the end, family isn't always blood or biology. Sometimes it's a man on a plane, a dog who changes your world, and a home where peace finally feels possible. Dana Perino's family is small by some definitions, but by the ones that matter, love, loyalty, presence, it's big enough to fill a lifetime. Donna Perino never wanted to be the loudest person in the room. In fact, for most of her life, she was drawn to the quiet, the moments in between, the pauses that said more than the shouting ever could. And maybe that's why, in a world that often rewards volume and flash, her voice stood out. Because it was calm, it was steady, and it was real. Her legacy isn't built on viral moments or dramatic headlines. It's built on presence, the kind that holds strong under pressure and doesn't shake when the lights come on. She earned her place in history not because she demanded it, but because she proved, over and over again, that you don't need to yell to be heard. You just need to mean what you say. People often think power looks like dominance, that it's found in being the most aggressive, the most commanding, the most talked about. But Dana's kind of power looked different. It came from knowing herself, from doing the hard work behind the scenes, from standing still when the world was spinning. She carried her strength like a quiet current, not obvious but always present, and those who paid attention felt it. In the White House, where words could move markets and tempers flared daily, Dana remained composed. When reporters pressed hard and the stakes were high, she never cracked. Her answers were thoughtful, even when the questions were designed to throw her off balance. That wasn't a performance. That was discipline. That was decades of quiet preparation. She had learned, long before she ever stood behind a podium, how to hold herself together when everything else was falling apart. And after Washington, she didn't slow down. She brought that same quiet power to national television. Millions watched her each night, not for theatrics, but for clarity. In a media landscape filled with noise, Dana became a rare voice of reason. She didn't talk over people. She didn't stir drama. She spoke with purpose, always balancing confidence with respect. But legacy isn't just about how you perform in public. It's about what you leave behind when the cameras are off. Dana's impact is woven into the people she's helped along the way. The young women she's mentored, the students she's encouraged, the quiet professionals she's lifted up without needing credit. She never saw mentorship as a photo op. She saw it as a responsibility because she remembered what it felt like to be underestimated, to walk into a room where no one expected much, and to have to prove your worth inch by inch. She told them the truth, that success isn't fast, that confidence is something you build, and that you don't have to become someone else to succeed. You can be kind and strong, gentle and effective, quiet and powerful. And for so many young people watching her, especially young women trying to find their place in politics or media, that message changed everything. Her books, like Everything Will Be Okay, weren't filled with bold predictions or fiery opinions. They were filled with reassurance, with honesty, with stories that reminded people that life isn't a straight line, and strength doesn't always look loud. She wrote the way she spoke, clearly, thoughtfully, and with heart, the same way she lived. Her home life, too, was part of her legacy, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. She built a quiet, steady life with Peter, a marriage based on presence, not performance. They didn't chase a spotlight. They made space for long dinners, morning walks with the dog, and the kind of everyday moments that become the foundation of a good life. And when she talked about Jasper, the dog that captured the hearts of millions, she wasn't trying to go viral. She was grieving. She was human. She allowed the world to see her tenderness. And in doing so, she reminded people that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the bridge that connects us. That moment, more than any polished interview, showed the depth of her character. Her legacy also lives in the causes she quietly supports. Mercy ships, animal shelters, education programs. She never made these things about herself. She simply gave time, money, attention, because she believed in making the world a little softer, a little better, wherever she could. Even in her later years, as her life slowed in Bay Head, New Jersey, Dana's influence didn't fade. It just took on a different rhythm. Mornings started with coffee and the ocean breeze, her dog, Percy, barking at waves. Peter slower now, but still beside her. The weight of her White House years still lingered, the instinct to react to every headline, the memory of late-night emails, the pressure of holding a country's attention. But in that peaceful home, she learned to let go, to breathe, to rest. And that's the part of her legacy most people won't see. The internal shift from relentless service to quiet gratitude, the decision to step out of the storm and build a life where joy could live again. That's power too, knowing when to fight and when to release, when to lead and when to simply be. Donna Perino won't be remembered just for what she did on screen or behind a podium. She'll be remembered for how she did it, with grace, patience, and the kind of quiet strength that inspires long after the spotlight fades. She showed that true leadership doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks in gently, speaks calmly, and changes the room without needing to shout. She didn't just leave a mark in politics or media. She left a message for anyone who ever felt too quiet, too unsure, or too soft for the world around them. You don't have to be loud to matter. You don't have to take up all the space to make a difference. You just have to show up with integrity, every day, in every room, with every word. That's the legacy Dana Perino built, one of quiet power, steady hands, and a voice that made people listen, not because it demanded attention, but because it earned respect. And in a world that often moves too fast to notice the quiet ones, she proved that sometimes the most lasting influence comes not from shouting, but from standing still, speaking truth, and living with purpose.